The ocean often hides its worst moments behind calm water. On April 10th, 1963, the United States Navy submarine USS Thresher slipped beneath the Atlantic Ocean about 200 miles east of Cape Cod. The sea looked ordinary that morning. There was no storm, no enemy fleet, and no dramatic warning that history was about to take a dark turn. Thresher was beginning a series of deep diving tests after completing months of repairs and upgrades in the shipyard. Above the submarine, the rescue ship Skylark maintained contact and listened for reports as the submarine slowly descended deeper into the cold water. At the time, Thresher represented the future of submarine warfare. She was the lead vessel of a brand new class of nuclear-powered attack submarines. Fast, quiet, and equipped with extremely advanced sonar systems, Thresher had been designed to track and destroy Soviet submarines during the Cold War. Her technology allowed her to detect enemy vessels at distances that earlier submarines could only dream about. The Navy had such confidence in the design that plans were already underway to build many more submarines based on her blueprint. Inside the submarine that morning were 129 people. Most were sailors assigned to the vessel, but several shipyard technicians were also aboard to observe the performance of systems that had recently been repaired. Deep diving tests were serious business. Submarines must prove that their hulls, piping systems, and safety equipment can survive enormous pressure before they are cleared for full operational service again. Every step downward is carefully controlled, with pauses to inspect systems and report conditions. Communication between the submarine and the surface ship Skylark took place through underwater telephone transmissions. As Thresher descended, she reported in regularly. Everything appeared normal. The submarine had already completed numerous dives to similar depths before entering the shipyard for maintenance. The crew was experienced. The systems had been inspected. There was every reason to believe that the test would go smoothly. Then, during the morning dive on April 10th, something changed. As Thresher approached deeper water, Skylark received a garbled message indicating that the submarine was experiencing minor difficulties. The transmission suggested that the crew had a positive upward angle and were attempting to blow their ballast tanks in order to rise to surface. Shortly afterward, another broken transmission came through. Observers believed they heard the number 900 within the message. Then the communication stopped completely. At first, the surface crew hoped the silence might simply be a temporary technical problem. Submarines occasionally lose contact during deep operations, but minutes turned into longer stretches of time with no further communication. And the longer the silence lasted, the worse the realization became. By that afternoon, Navy commanders understood that something had gone terribly wrong. Ships from across the region began racing toward the search area. Submarines already operating nearby were ordered to assist. Aircraft scanned the ocean surface. Sonar equipment swept the depths below. The search was massive and urgent, but the ocean did not return Thresher. President John F. Kennedy soon ordered flags across the United States to be flown at half-mast in honor of the lost crew. Families of the sailors began receiving the worst news imaginable. The submarine had been declared lost, with all 129 people aboard. Finding the wreck would take time. The ocean floor in that region lies far below the reach of ordinary equipment. Specialized research ships and deep-sea vehicles had to be brought in to begin the search. Eventually, investigators located the remains of Thresher about 8,400 feet beneath the surface. What they found was devastating. Instead of a single intact vessel, the submarine had been torn apart by the enormous pressure of the deep ocean. Large sections of the hull were scattered across the seafloor in multiple pieces. The debris field stretched across dozens of acres. The submarine had imploded. But the most unsettling part of the investigation was not the destruction itself. It was the likely cause. Investigators concluded that the disaster may have begun with something surprisingly ordinary. Evidence suggested that a saltwater pipe joint deep within the submarine may have failed. These joints had been assembled using a silver brazing technique rather than full welding. When the joint failed, high-pressure seawater likely sprayed into the compartment. The sudden flooding may have shorted electrical systems and triggered an automatic shutdown of the nuclear reactor, a safety procedure known as a scram. When the reactor shut down, the submarine lost propulsion. Without propulsion, the vessel could not easily climb toward the surface. The crew attempted to blow ballast tanks in order to force the submarine upward. But another problem likely appeared at the worst possible moment. Moisture inside the high-pressure air system may have frozen into ice as the compressed air rushed through valves. That ice blocked the flow of air needed to force water out of the ballast tanks. Without that air pressure, the submarine could not regain buoyancy quickly enough. Deep beneath the Atlantic, the submarine continued to sink. Once it passed its structural limits, the hull collapsed under the crushing pressure of the ocean. The implosion happened so quickly that it likely took only a fraction of a second. The loss of USS Thresher shocked the United States Navy. It forced commanders to confront a painful truth. If the most advanced submarine in the fleet could fail because of mechanical weaknesses and system interactions, then every submarine in the fleet needed to be examined more carefully. Out of that tragedy came one of the most important safety programs in naval history. The Navy created the SubSafe program, a rigorous inspection and certification system designed to ensure that critical submarine components are built, installed, and maintained to extremely strict standards. Pipes, valves, hull structures, and emergency systems would all undergo detailed verification. The goal was simple: make certain that a disaster like Thresher would never happen again. In the decades since the program was implemented, the United States Navy has not lost another submarine due to a structural failure at sea. The lessons learned from Thresher changed the way submarines are built and maintained forever. But that progress came at a terrible cost. 129 sailors and shipyard workers never returned home from that test dive in 1963. Their submarine still rests on the ocean floor, listed by the Navy as being on eternal patrol. It remains one of the most sobering reminders of how dangerous the silent service can be. Because beneath the surface of the ocean, there are no second chances when machinery fails. And sometimes history changes not through victory or war, but through the quiet loss of a ship in deep water. Now I want to hear your thoughts. What part of this story affects you the most? Is it the sudden silence after those final transmissions, or the realization that something as ordinary as a pipe joint and frozen air system may have doomed one of the most advanced submarines ever built? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoy stories like this, make sure you follow this Facebook page so you never miss a post. And subscribe to the podcast, History Happens, for the full deep dive into moments from history that still echo today.